Hello! Okay, so the purpose of this video is to explain to you how absolute value inequalities work. Okay, let's start off with a number line here. Let's try to reason through what we have. Okay, so let's say we're given these two examples and we want to graph them on a number line. Okay, so if I asked you, like, just give me any number between -10 and 10, let's say I gave you like 6 here, right? So the absolute value of 6 is going to be 6. So this means 6 is less than 7. That's going to work. Okay? So what that means is we're going to just place 6 here. 6 should work. Okay? And let's say I ask you another number. Let's say I ask you like 2 or something, right? So if I took absolute value of 2, well, absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 is less than 7, and that's true. So we're going to go ahead and plot this one. Let's say I gave you another number. Let's say I gave you like 10 or something. If I put 10 in here, well, absolute value of 10 is 10. So that's not true. So we're not going to go ahead and plot that point. Similarly, if this was negative, we're not going to plot that point either. Okay? Let's try like one more. Let's say I put -5 in here. So if I took the absolute value of -5, that's going to be 5. Well, 5 is less than 7, and that's going to work. So that means -5 will be valid. You can do this over and over again, and what you're going to realize is if you tried 7, well, 7 is not less than 7, so this is going to be false. That is going to be represented with the open circle. Okay, and similarly, if we tried the absolute value of -7 here, that is also going to apply. But what this implies, as you can see here, is that anything that falls in the middle, that you can see right here, so all of this, okay, this is all going to hold true. So in other words, what I'm getting at is the absolute value of 7 is the same thing as this inequality. So we have -7 is less than x is less than 7. Okay? So that's how that works. Right? Let's look at this, what we have down here. Let's say we have the absolute value of x is greater than 4. Okay? So, same idea. Let's try numbers. Let's say we put in -10 in here. If we had x is going to be -10, well, absolute value of -10 is going to be +10. So that's going to work. So what we have is we're going to plot that point, so -10 is going to work. Okay? Let's try another number. Let's say we try like 7. Okay? If we tried 7 in here, well, absolute value of 7, if we do that, so 7 is going to be greater than 4. That one's also going to be true. Okay, so this is also going to be true. I'm going to put that right there. Let's say we tried something like -1. If we put -1 in here, and we took the absolute value of -1, well, that's 1. 1 is not greater than 4, so that's not going to be put there. Let's try one more. Let's just try one more just for fun. If we took the absolute value of like -5, so absolute value of -5 is going to be 5. This is going to be true. So what that means is -5 should work. You can do this all day if we wanted to. But what you're going to realize after doing so many of these, what you're going to realize is this is going to have an open circle, and this is going to have an open circle. And what we have is I'm going to graph for you. So anything greater than 4 will be okay. And anything less than -4 is going to be okay. Right? So let's write our results, what we have here. So this implies that the absolute value of 4 can be written as x is less than -4 or x is greater than 4. Okay? So, in summary, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a list of rules down here for you to see. Okay, so basically, in short, okay, so what we have is, let's say if we have the absolute value of x here is less than some number, we call that a. So this implies that we have negative a is going to be less than x is less than a. So this can be any number. Okay, that's one of them. And we also know that if the absolute value of x is greater than a, okay, then we're going to have two possibilities. So in this case, so we have x is less than negative a, or x is greater than a. Okay, so I'm just going to put this in a little bubble here, just so you can kind of see, because we're going to manipulate each of these in some shape or form to kind of help you out. Okay, and these here are easily adjusted. So let's say we had a less than or equal to, then this becomes this. If we have a greater than or equal to, then this becomes this and this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example, and we'll go from there. All right? All right. Okay. So these are fun problems. Okay. So let's say for this particular example, I gave you the absolute value of x minus 68 is less than or equal to 5. Okay. So recall what I showed you earlier, right? So let's say I gave you like the absolute value of x is less than 7, right? So if you look at the picture, the one that we went over in class, right? This means x is going to be between, if I were to put the number line here, it's going to be between negative 7 and 7. And since we have don't have a line underneath, this is represented by an open circle. So it's going to look something like this, right? So what I'm getting at is, for this particular example, this means x minus 68 is between what we have here. So we have solid dot and a solid dot here. So it's going to be between negative 5 and 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and manipulate this here. So we get negative 5 is less than or equal to x minus 68 is less than 5. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and solve for x. So we can add 68 that you see here. Okay, and then what we're left with is we have negative 5 plus 68 is going to be 63. So 63 is less than or equal to x, and less than or equal to 5 plus 68 is going to be 73. Okay, and that is how you would solve this inequality. So what we're saying is x has to be between 63 and 73. Okay, now I'm going to show you another example. Hello. All right, so let's do another example. Okay, so let's say we have the absolute value of 2x plus 8 is greater than or equal to 12. Okay, so recall what I showed you earlier with the absolute value of x is greater than 4. Okay, so what we said for this, if you drew it on a number line, right, this would be negative 4 and this would be 4, and you have the open circles, right? And that open circle says that we're going to shade this way and this way. Okay, so let's consider what we have here. Okay, so this means, so that means we have, so if we were to graph this on a number line here, what we can do is we have a negative 12 here and we have a 12 here, but the only difference now is we're saying 2x plus 8 is less than or equal to negative 12, and we know 2x plus 8 is going to be greater than or equal to 12. Okay, because we can go ahead and shade it, as you can see, very similar to what we did with the basic example. Okay, so there are two inequalities here that we have to solve. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and do so. Okay, so what I see is we can subtract 8. So we have 2x is less than or equal to negative 20. and then we divide by 2. And then when that cancels, we get x is less than or equal to negative 10. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and manipulate the other one. 2x plus 8 is greater than or equal to 12. We can subtract 8. So we get 2x is greater than or equal to 4. Divide by 2, and we get x is greater than or equal to 2. Okay? So, that is basically how you would do that problem. Okay? I have a few more problems, and I'll close with the video. And I'll see you later. Okay, bye. Alright, so let's do a few more problems, okay? So let's say I gave you 3 times the absolute value of x minus 6 minus 8 is less than 16, okay? First, what we want to do is, you see here, we have an absolute value expression. We want to go ahead and isolate that absolute value expression somehow. So first, what I see is we can add 8 to both sides. Okay, so what we have is 3 times the absolute value of x minus 6 is less than 24. And then what I see is we have a 3 on the outside, so we can further manipulate this absolute value expression by dividing by 3. Okay, so we can cancel, and we have the absolute value of x minus 6 is less than 8. Okay, now let's just say we use some of the rules. So as you can see here, this kind of looks like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and manipulate that as the other way we see it. So this says, well, that this expression x minus 6 has to be between negative 8 and positive 8. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to solve the inequality. Okay, so what we can do is we can add 6 to each of the bounds here. So what we do is negative 8 plus 6 is going to be negative 2. This is going to cancel. We have x, and we have 8 plus 6, and that's 14. So what we have is x has to be between negative 2 and 14. Okay? Now, let's try another example. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and erase what we have here. And let's say we do another example. Okay, so next one looks something like this. So absolute value of x minus 12 minus 7 is greater than 16. Okay, so again, what we want to do is we want to isolate that absolute value. Okay, so we can add 7. So we have the absolute value of x minus 12 is greater than 23. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and manipulate it. Okay, so as you can see, this looks like this. So what we have in this case is x minus 12 is less than negative 23, or we have x minus 12 is going to be greater than 23. And then we just solve this. So we can add 12 to both sides here. We get x is less than negative 11, or we can add 12 to both sides here, and we get x is greater than 35. Okay. And as I mentioned before, if you guys are having trouble, draw the picture every time. Draw the picture so you can kind of see what you're working with. Okay? Last example. Last example here, and then I'm going to close up the video. Okay? So let's say I give you something like the absolute value of 4x minus 2 plus 3 is less than or equal to 5. Okay, same idea. We want to isolate that absolute value. Okay, so we can subtract 3. I see this as absolute value of 4x minus 2 is less than or equal to 2. Okay, now, like as we saw earlier, this kind of looks like this. Okay, so if we were to manipulate this, this is the same thing as, well, negative 2 is less than or equal to 4x minus 2 is less than or equal to 2. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to try get x, in this case, isolated. Okay, so what I see is we can add 2 to each of the bounds here. So negative 2 plus 2 is going to be 0. Less than or equal to, this cancels, we get 4x, and less than or equal to 2 plus 2 is going to be 4. Then what I see is we can divide by 4 to ease the bounds, and then we have 0 is less than or equal to, and then we get x, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. Alright, and there you go. These are the problems that will help you with that Google form. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions on anything. Okay, bye-bye.